Did you know Rick and Morty got an anime and the first episode dropped 2 days ago? I certainly didn't. I didn't hear a peep about this leading up to its release. There was less hype around this than there was for Velma Season 2, it seems. The only reason I even caught wind of this is because a buddy of mine sent me an article talking about, like, Rick and Morty fans being disappointed with the anime. I thought my friend was just spouting mumbo jumbo. I thought he was back on the Fint again, just eating a full-blown Fint sandwich, talking about a Rick and Morty anime. But it turns out this is a real show, and a lot of people don't seem to like it very much right now. So I decided to check it out for myself, put on the big boy pants and do my own investigation here and form my own opinion on it, to see if it really is as shitty as a lot of people are making it out to be. Now, I used to really like Rick and Morty, but I haven't watched the last 3 or so seasons, and it's not because I hate the show or anything like that, it's just I haven't had any interest in checking it out recently. But I did want to check out the Rick and Morty anime because I just have this fascination with bad media that I just feel compelled to watch it, or when it comes to games, play it. So there's only one episode out right now, and it's a little early to count your chickens before they hatch. You can't exactly just throw in the towel after the first quarter here, but what a rough start. Jiminy Christmas. Zoinks, Scoob. I don't know what went so wrong here. So let's just dive into everything about the episode here, but first off, I'll try and start with something positive. Is there anything I liked about episode 1? Fucking no. Nothing. Actually, I can't think of a single compliment. If I had to fish for something positive, I'd say I don't think the show can get worse. This is about as messy of a start as you can have to a show. It's not even like a good-looking show. It's a really weird style. I'm not going to play any clips from the trailer because YouTube's been kind of weird with the MCA recently, so I'll just show you a couple images. It reminds me of the way Clifford the Big Red Dog's cartoon looked. It just looks so weird, like it's not finished. It's just like doodles. It looks like a flip book. And for some reason, the animation is super choppy. I don't know if that's on purpose or what, but I actually thought my service was lagging and was causing it to like buffer during a couple of the scenes where Morty is running. It reminds me of the Die Fantasy music video, you know, where they break into that pool and then a Lovecraftian monster blows that girl's eyes out or whatever. But like 10 steps below that. I don't really understand what they were going for with this style here. It's just not pleasant to look at. I understand trying to make it unique and quirky, but I think this one was a total miss in that regard. Now, let's talk about the actual contents of the episode. Do you remember that episode of Rick and Morty where they go to Blips and Shits and Rick puts that helmet on Morty for a game called Roy, and what happens is it transports him into a life where he spends 55 years living as someone named Roy. He experiences love, loss, he has a wife, all kinds of things, and it's a like minute and a half or so montage of life. And then Roy falls off the ladder and dies, game over, and that takes Morty out of the game, only for him to realize that those 55 years that he experienced weren't real. In the real world, no time had passed. But to him, that whole experience was real. And it's just a really interesting concept. I actually think that episode's a banger. The Rick and Morty anime takes that and shitifies it. So it takes that concept, and instead of giving you like a minute and a half montage showing it, it's a 20-minute episode that tries so hard to be deep and profound, but ends up sounding lamer than that classic Rick and Morty Reddit copy pasta about, to be fair, you need to have a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. It's so disjointed. This episode has Rick give Morty a VR headset, and in the VR headset, Morty's playing this VR game that Rick has designed, and he's experiencing something that feels real to him. And what's happening is the episode keeps cutting between like 5 or 6 different Mortys chaotically, randomly. There's even 2 moments in this episode where there's a black screen that just comes up for like 2 seconds, and it feels like that was an editing error. That happens twice. And it's just constantly cutting between a bunch of different scenes that don't actually connect. The only thing that is like a through line is that Morty is here, he's about to get beaten up, and then some giant monsters come out, and in a couple different versions, they're slayed in different ways. So like, a love interest slays them one time, a friend slays them one time. and then it just keeps randomly cutting back and forth. This whole episode is like when you try and remember a dream, but all you can recall are bits and pieces that don't actually connect to each other, so it doesn't make sense. So it completely fails and fumbles this idea that it tried to get across, because it does so extremely poorly, and it doesn't even have comedy to fall back on or anything. The Rick and Morty anime doesn't have jokes. And I'm not just being like dismissive of, you know, oh, the jokes were so bad and so lowbrow, I didn't even register them as jokes. Pathetic. No, I mean the show is not a comedy. Like, episode 1 is not a comedy, and it doesn't really try to be. There's a few moments in the beginning of the episode that try and inject humor into a couple of scenes, but the humor is a character saying that another character is a bitch. Or, at the end of the episode, just saying the word bitch. There's really nothing else. There's no, like, punchlines. They don't set up gags or anything. And it's really only a couple times at the beginning and then once at the very end of the episode where they have a character say a naughty word. And I think that was supposed to be the moment where you giggle and spit up. But I don't even think they're trying to make this a comedy, because it doesn't seem to want to be. Which is a crazy decision to make for this. Like, it really does feel like they didn't actually watch the show they were adapting into an anime here. This is like the Halo Paramount series, but for Rick and Morty. It barely, very, very barely even resembles Rick and Morty in any capacity at all. I just don't understand what the fuck they were going for here. Rick and Morty is a comedy first and foremost. Yes, it tackles like some other bigger things like throughout the seasons, sure, but that's not the core of the show. Now, again, it's only one episode, so maybe all of the other episodes are going to try and get you with some side-splitting comedy, have you slapping at your knee, just going ballistic with, you know, ho ho ho, you know, holly jolly jokes. But man, episode 1 was a clunker. And what's really even more baffling to me is that nothing happens most of the time. It's a lot of just nothingness. It's a terrible story they try and tell with episode 1. It's terribly disjointed, and it's terribly boring. So I thought there'd like be action. And in episode 1, there are moments that set up for action. He's in a fucking VR game. That's just like free reign to go crazy with what you can do with action. Especially when he's surrounded by a lot of enemies, he has lightsabers, and then like a giant monster pops up. You can have some really cool scenes. And they don't. When the creatures get slain, it's off screen. You don't see it. There's nothing that gets shown to you. All that happens in the show is people talking at each other. And if that's not happening, then it's characters just standing idly around. It's really, really lame. There really is nothing I liked about this episode other than the intro theme song. Apparently Baby Metal did the theme song for this, and it's good. That's like the only decent thing I can say about it, to be honest. I just don't know what there is to like about it. There's no jokes. It's hard to look at because the style is so off-putting. I honestly do not understand. I can't reiterate this enough. I do not understand why they went in this direction. There are some YouTube animators that take shows and turn them into anime, and they look incredible. Take, for example, Narmak with the SpongeBob anime. That shit looks amazing. That looks so much better than the Rick and Morty anime. I don't know why they wouldn't go in a direction more similar to that. But anyway, it's not a good-looking show. It basically just plagiarizes the homework of an earlier Rick and Morty episode, but still somehow fucked it up. So they just do a very similar concept worse and in a longer span of time. And it's just boring. It's truly boring. Now, what they're setting up here is all of these timelines starting to overlap. So I'm guessing that the new love interest, the new friend, and this old Rick are going to be important characters going forward, but I don't give a fuck. Like, I just don't care about them. This episode is such a mess, I don't even know who or what they are or what they're doing. So, like, it's cutting between so many different Morty moments. Like, in one Morty moment, he's the world's best guy. You know, he gets into politics. He's like the best politician the world's ever seen. He's great. And his friend is there. And they have like some chemistry going on. But then like they're time jumping all over the place. Then that Morty's dead. And the friend's like, I'll never forget you, Morty. And then he drops like a little orb with a Morty head in it. Like, it's so all over the place that I sound like a crazy person just trying to even explain what I watched. Because it's just a confusing disaster. I'm not going to just keep ranting about it. I'm going to keep watching the show because I am beyond curious to see where they take it from here. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. See ya.